Hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News for this Tuesday, the 10th day of June, 2025. And as always, we have some very important stories in the news we're going to bring to you. Now, our first one is one of these head scratchers again, which may or may not be true. We've had a number of stories like this that have turned out to be fake news, but a number of Israeli sites are promoting this story and saying basically the same thing, whether it's true or not. We will soon find out, but we'll give you the story. And here's what it says. Trump to Netanyahu, the war is exhausting itself. Finish it. Supposedly get it over with immediately. That's Gaza. And he also supposedly told Netanyahu, stop talking about bombing Iran. We're in the midst of a deal with them, and I'm going to make a deal with Iran. We don't want any bombing or any fighting or any talk about that. So we'll talk about this story in a minute. All right, our second headline, Netanyahu said this, significant progress on the Gaza hostage deal has been made. It's too soon to give people hope, but I guess supposedly there's some type of progress made. And again, we'll see about that. And again, we really hope and pray for the hostages. It's such a sad situation there. It's so hurtful for the whole nation, of course, for the families there that have their loved ones over 600 days in captivity by these murderous people with Hamas. And finally, Mike Huckabee. This is a very refreshing story. I love Mike. U.S. no longer endorses a Palestinian state can be formed elsewhere in the Middle East. It's from also the Jerusalem Post. Mike's a very strong evangelical Christian, very a wonderful supporter of Israel, and he rebukes these that are calling for a Palestinian state. And this is so refreshing too, because for the last 4 years that if you've been with us, the Biden administration had that drumbeat constantly. You need a two-state solution, you need a Palestinian state. No, you don't. You had a Palestinian state with Gaza, with Hamas running it, and that's see what you get when you have something like that. Because remember, the citizens there in Gaza, the Palestinian Authority took over when the 2005 when it was given to them, and the next year they voted for Hamas to rule, and look what you get. And so anyway, we'll talk about that story too, because we've got this conference coming up in very soon in New York with France running the show seemingly. And again, we're having mixed signals from France. Are they going to declare unilaterally a Palestinian state? Are they going to try and force something upon the people? It's going to be interesting to find out, but that's coming up soon also. So in light of that, Mike Huckabee made it very clear the stance of the United States of America. All right, let's get to the headlines. First of all, Trump to Netanyahu, the war is exhausting itself, finish it. From the Jerusalem Post, N12 attributed these quotes to the phone call that took place between Trump and Netanyahu on Monday evening. That'd be last evening, of course. U.S. President Donald Trump told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza and to remove the option of striking Iran. This is what they reported today, N12 on Tuesday. They attributed these quotes to the conversation that took place between Trump and Netanyahu on Monday. Now, again, who gave them the word of what was said, we're not told here, but this is what they say was said. Trump told Netanyahu, I want you to end the war, reportedly making it clear to Netanyahu that it's not just the Witkoff deal that could be reached. Both deals could be reached. Finish it. The war is exhausting itself. Trump reportedly said ending the war will also help in negotiations with Iran and also the Saudis. Now, regarding Iran, Trump supposedly said he hadn't given up on negotiations. The Iranians will give a bad response, but that's not something that closes the door. And also, we have from other websites and other news sources that recounted this story from whichever source they had. Trump said, I'm going to make a deal. We're going to have a deal. We don't want any fighting. We don't want any destruction. We don't want any death. Just stop talking about it and don't even think about doing it. All right. Again, this story is from Reuters. So there's a real question as to its truthfulness. If it is true, then Trump would put Israel in a very difficult position. For one thing, they cannot end the war in Gaza by leaving Hamas in power. Second, Iran, as usual, is just stringing Trump along, buying time. However, there's some reasons for it to be doubtful. I'm still getting the word that a strike from Israel is highly likely in the near future. In other words, that it is not off the table with what's been going on recently. It could be highly likely, again, with the chatter from the different intelligence groups that are, in the know on that. That's the message we still get. And also, too, I want to thank you people for your prayers. Remember yesterday we talked about the possibility of a strike in Iran and that we need prayers for certain things and unnamed people that needed your prayers. And uh, the good news is these people who were in harm's way yesterday are not in harm's way anymore. and they wanted to pass on thank you for the prayers because they're in a very dicey situation. In other words, if the attack would have taken place, surprise attack yesterday, they would probably have lost their lives. And so they're thankful for that. We're thankful for you that do pray for the people there, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for the Israeli people, pray for the Christians that are there doing their job in the Middle East, and pray for the soldiers that American soldiers that are there, the Israeli army and the such like that are fighting these horrible, horrible enemies, Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and of course Iran, which is behind it all. It's just outright, out and out evil. And so we know at the end of the day, and here's the good news, we know how it's all going to end. And this is why we always are optimists here on Breaking News, because Scripture tells us, the Lord Jesus Christ will come back. We have the second coming of Christ, and there'll be a number of events that are going to precede it. We've talked about them in our book, 25 Signs. We're near the end. In fact, for those of you that are new, you haven't heard this before, with the 25 signs, what we have documented there are 70 specific details in these 25 signs that have already been fulfilled, predicted to take place at the time of the end, and another 30 in the process of being fulfilled. So it's miraculous how all these things are falling into place just as the Bible says. So we know how it's going to end. And like we always say, we don't know how it's going to get there. And stories seem to change by the hour here. So we do the best we can in giving them to you. In fact, I'm going to be doing a story tomorrow. I was corrected by our good friend Larry Goldstein on something I've been saying about the ultra Orthodox. I've been hitting them a little bit too hard. And so he wrote me a very nice note. And I really appreciate that. So I'm going to give a little bit of a corrective tomorrow as we talk about there's a vote going on in the Knesset tomorrow about the dissolving of the Knesset, the dissolving of the government, and it's basically much ado about nothing. And we'll talk about that, even though the different news sources are trying to make a big deal about it, because the government will not be dissolving tomorrow, or there won't be dissolving before the end of this term. So anyway, just want to let you know. So with this story, again, we don't know. We just have to wait and see. So one of the things we always have to be careful about is fake news and reporting something that we think is true, but then it turns out not to be. And what we do here, if we make a mistake, we're the first ones to admit it. We gave you this story, we thought it was true, but it turns out not to be. So we're doing our best. Now, the good news is we have a source where we can give you that's always true, and that's the Bible, the Word of the living God. There we're on very good ground. Okay. So anyway, so much for that first story. Okay, headline number two, Netanyahu says significant progress on Gaza hostage deal. It's too soon to give people hope, he said. This from also the Jerusalem Post. The Hostage Family Forum responded to Netanyahu's remarks where they urged the prime minister to reach a deal to free their loved ones. Prime Minister Netanyahu stated that while there has been significant progress in the Gaza hostage deal, it is too soon to give people hope. In a video released across social media today on Tuesday, we are currently working ceaselessly on it, Netanyahu said. Prime Minister is expected to hold an additional meeting today regarding the deal. The Hostage Family Forum responded to Netanyahu's remarks where they urged the Prime Minister to reach a deal to free their loved ones. At this moment, while the Prime Minister is updating through the media again the significant progress in negotiations, we would like to remind there is no need to reinvent the wheel. There is a comprehensive agreement on the table, and the Prime Minister could sign it tomorrow morning should he choose to do so. That's again one of these groups that wants an immediate ceasefire. And the problem, of course, is, bless their heart. We understand this. And if it were our relatives, we'd probably do the same thing. But you can't give in to Gaza. You can't give in to Hamas. You can't let them stay there and rule in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, you could get the war over tomorrow, but at what cost, at what price? And there's about 20 hostages left, and our heart breaks for them. But there's 10 million people in Israel, and 7 million of them are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And you got to look after their safety too. So anyway, basically, uh, it goes on to say this forum, by a decisive majority, the Israeli people want an agreement to bring them all back at the cost of halting the fighting. No, the majority does not want that. A large number of people do want that, but not at the cost of halting the fighting. Because if you halt the fighting, what are you going to do? You're going to be in the same position you were in before. Sooner or later, Hamas will regroup. They've got one thing and one thing in mind. That's the destruction of Israel. Remember, their charter calls for that. They will never give that up, and they will probably never negotiate any type of hostage situation. Not going to give away the last hostages, that's for sure. They may do a deal where they give away a few of them, but they can't give all of them away because they'd have no card to play, as it were, at the time of the end. So anyway, Netanyahu says we're moving towards this. The people say, the families say we're fed up. Again, we understand that. Our heart breaks for them, but you have to look at the big picture. And leadership, sometimes the price of leadership isn't easy when you got to do the right thing, and a lot of times it's not the easiest thing with respect to what some people in the public want. And Netanyahu is doing the right thing. He's fighting and trying to get the hostages back, but you can't give in to this horrible, horrible, murderous group that, again, all they want to do is wipe Israel off the face of the earth. So anyway, uh, we'll see what happens in that. We'll see if anything takes place. We'd be very surprised if any deal is made because of the way the intransigence of Hamas. But again, stranger things have happened. So we will wait and see. All right, headline number three, Mike Huckabee, love him. U.S. no longer endorses Palestinian state. It can be formed elsewhere in the Middle East. In fact, the other day he said there's probably some nice space in France too. They may want to have it because talk about Macron saying we need a Palestinian state. And he said, well, you know, we've got some beautiful territory there in France. Why don't you move them there? Huckabee added the United States no longer wholeheartedly endorses an independent state for Palestinians, saying he does not think the issue remains a U.S. policy. No, it does not now. A U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, suggested a Palestinian state could be formed in the territories of other Middle Eastern nations. That's what the Israelis have been saying for years and years and years. Since there is room in the West Bank, he told Bloomberg in an interview published on, since there's no room in the West Bank, he told Bloomberg in an interview published on Tuesday. He added the United States no longer wholeheartedly endorses an independent state for Palestinians. He does not think the issue remains a U.S. policy, and certainly doesn't seem to be now. Bloomberg quoted Huckabee stating, unless there are some significant things that happen that change the culture, there is no room for it in regard to establishing a Palestinian state in the West Bank. And he criticizes France's attempt to recognize a Palestinian state. Last week, Huckabee criticized France's decision to organize this UN conference that would see the recognition of a Palestinian state within a two-state solution. The Jerusalem Post has previously reported this story. We've done it here too. It's incredibly inappropriate in the midst of a war that Israel is dealing with to go out to present something that Israelis are steadfastly against, he told Fox News in an interview. If France is really so determined to see a Palestinian state, I've got a suggestion for them. Carve out a piece of the French Riviera and create a Palestinian state. Here, here. They're welcome to do that, but they're not welcome to impose that kind of pressure on a sovereign nation. I find it revolting that they think they have the right to do that sort of thing. I hope they reconsider, but the United States will not be part of it. Now, here's our comment. This is so refreshing, given the constant drumbeat of the Biden administration, as well as the coming of gathering of the nations in New York soon, where it seems that they'll somehow try and push through unilaterally a Palestinian state. Now, we must remember here, there are no such thing as the Palestinians. Appendix 5 in our book 25 Signs from Near the End explains exactly who they are and their relationship to the Holy Land. The Bible is clear that the right to the land belongs to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's another appendix we got. So who owns the land? Who has the right to it? We have that appendix in 25 Signs. We're near the end. And also, who are the Palestinians? Now, the book is a free download from our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible Prophecy. We want you to take advantage of it so you can understand exactly who we're dealing with and what God's thoughts are on the matter. Because at the end of the day, that's all we really care about here. What does He say? And we're going to follow it. And He says this was given, Genesis 12, 1 to 3, to Abram and his descendants forever. It has never been rescinded. In fact, He made it very clear in the book of Jeremiah that as long as the heavens are still there. They still exist. The suns and the moon are in the sky and the stars. God will be on the side of Israel to support them and their right to have that specific land that He has carved out for them. All right, so a lot going on. Again, we'll see exactly what happens. We'll see if Israel will attack soon. It's not impossible. We're getting, like I said, some word that it's likely that they will, but we just certainly don't know in this crazy world. We'll just take it a day at a time. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.